I shared with you last year that the IRS is going paperless starting September 30th of 2025. Well, here we are in tax season. Is the IRS ready for that? What changes are occurring right now with issuing refunds, or if you owe a payment to the IRS, how does it change? Got that update and more coming up. If you're filing your taxes this year and getting a refund and you don't want it direct deposit, maybe you don't really trust the IRS or the government, you don't want to include your bank account information on there, can you still receive a paper check of your refund? And what if you owe taxes? Hopefully it's not a surprise and you were aware of this and you've got to write a check or you've got to make a payment to the IRS. Can you write that check, or do you need to go online and make a payment online? Or if you have a first quarter estimate due on April 15, can you write a check for that, or do you have to issue that payment online? Well, you may remember I shared this update a year ago when it was announced, but there was an executive order last year that the IRS needed to go paperless and have it all implemented by the end of September of 2025. There hasn't been much word on that. Even if you remember, if you're a fan of the Wise Money Show, when I sort of shared that news, I said, I don't know how they're going to be ready in time, and we're waiting for updates. And listen, we just got one. The IRS basically said, we weren't ready for this, we're not ready for this, and they are in the process of phasing it in. So the update, and I'm going to share it, the details directly from the IRS, including the fact sheet right below in the description. But the latest is, yeah, they are starting to implement it, and things are starting to change, starting with this tax year right now. But this is a developing story. Make sure that you hit that subscribe button so you are up to date as the IRS goes from phasing this in to no, it's officially implemented. I don't want you to miss out on a refund or have one delayed. And I don't want you, if you owe taxes, I don't want you to issue a payment only for it to be rejected and all of a sudden have some penalties and so on. So what's the latest for right now? Well, let's start with refunds, and then we'll go to if you're making payments to the IRS. So what are the changes? Question number one, what are the changes happening right now when issuing refunds? All right, so the answer says they're going to stop issuing paper checks effective September 30th of 2025 to the extent permitted by law. The federal government must continue to issue certified payments in some limited circumstances and will issue a limited number of paper checks in case there's no alternative available. Otherwise, the IRS has generally stopped issuing paper refund checks. So basically, that first answer makes it sound like, hey, we're no longer issuing paper checks, but we might. We still will for a little bit. Okay, let's continue. Will taxpayers without bank accounts still be able to receive refunds? Yes, period. But guys, it's not that simple. While direct deposit into a bank account will remain the primary method for issuing refunds, the executive order explicitly acknowledges that not all individuals have access to traditional banking services. Alternative electronic payment methods, including payments via certain mobile apps and prepaid debit cards, will be available to serve these individuals. Limited exceptions to the paper check phase out will be established. That also makes it sound like, well, if you really don't want to give your bank information, you probably have an out. But hang on, let's go further. Question number 5 is the biggie, but let's keep going in order. Question number 3, what should taxpayers do now to be prepared for this change? Yeah, you should put your direct deposit information on your tax return. That's what they're saying. And if you don't have traditional banking, go out and get traditional banking. That's essentially what they're saying. Question 4, will the transition delay my tax refunds? In most cases, no. Okay, and then it states that, the whole reason for this paperless initiative is to make it more efficient and obviously cheaper. It costs money for someone at the IRS to receive a paper check in the mail, open it and process it, all that sort of stuff. Also creates time. It takes more time for someone or for the computer to issue a paper check and all that sort of stuff. And plus fraud. By the way, just quick tangent. I did hear of someone who mailed a check for their fourth quarter estimate in January and apparently said that the check was stolen out of their mailbox. And it was, this is like, stuff for a movie, but the check was then altered to change the payee. It was for $5,000, change the payee to that individual. They cashed the check that was originally written for the IRS. And so whether you are frustrated by this initiative or not, apparently they're saying, hey, it's going to reduce theft and reduce a lot of waste and cost and so on. So will it cause delays for you? No, it shouldn't, is what they're saying. Now, here's the biggie for refunds. Question number 5. What will happen What will happen? What are the consequences if a taxpayer does not include their direct deposit information on their tax return? Providing electronic payment is voluntary. Again, makes it sound like you've got an out. If taxpayers do not provide this information and no exception applies, their refunds could take longer to process. Okay, that's the answer to number 4. Taxpayers should provide direct deposit information when filing a tax return. Here's where it gets difficult. If banking information is missing when filing the return, the tax return will still be accepted and processed. However, when filing electronically, the taxpayer may receive an alert notifying them of the missing banking information and outlining steps if they're due a refund. So for taxpayers where this information is missing, the IRS will send letters to the individual using their last known address of record, asking them to update their banking information if they did not provide it on their tax return. The taxpayer will receive a notice in the mail requesting a response within 30 days, either to provide their banking information or to explain why they can't. So basically, if you don't put your direct deposit information on there, you're going to receive a notice and they're going to tell you, you need to provide it. And if not, you need to give us a reason why. And so it's almost like, no, they are enforcing this right now. And then the last paragraph, once the taxpayer provides the direct deposit information or the exception, the refund will be immediately released, either direct deposit or paper check. If there is no response to the notice and there are no other issues with the tax return, the refund will be released as a paper check after 6 weeks. So if you right now, during this phasing in, if you say, I am not putting my direct deposit information down, give me a check, you're going to get a notice, which is going to take a while, a requirement, hey, you got to submit a response within 30 days. If you ignore that as well, they will eventually, right now, during this phase in, will still issue a check, but 6 weeks later. So I don't know, guys, if you're getting a refund, it really sounds like it's got to be direct deposit. And yeah, maybe there's a little bit of out here and it's going to be super inconvenient, but it seems like they are really enforcing this and pushing towards direct deposit. Now, what about if you're writing a check to the IRS? Does this executive order apply to checks written to the IRS? Yes, it does. For now, checks and money orders will still be accepted. However, the IRS strongly encourages taxpayers to make payments using the electronic options. Over time, the IRS will reduce reliance on paper checks and money orders for receiving payments, and with limited exceptions to blah, blah, blah. So yes, you could, if you owe taxes this year or you're making your first quarter estimate, you can still write a check. However, there's only a small window of time, and they're not saying exactly when they're going to cut that off, but they are going to be phasing that out as well. And so right now you can still write a paper check, but you're going to need to be shifting to the online payment system for the IRS for your taxes in the future. So there you have it, guys. That's the update directly from the IRS. It's going to impact your tax return this year. And my guess is this phase in is going to be fully phased in by next year. Maybe I'm wrong, but for those of you that say, no, I'm getting a refund and I don't want direct deposit, I'm not sure you'll have that much flexibility it's going to be very inconvenient this year. You might not have a lot of flexibility next year. And if you're writing checks to the IRS for estimates or when you owe your taxes, you might want to start getting used to making those payments electronically. But stay here for more up-to-date information as we get updates from the IRS as far as when this is officially going to be enforced. And of course, your tax preparation needs to be infused with your tax planning. If you're making payments or receiving a refund, hopefully you're prepared for that. You are aware, you've optimized your tax planning and your tax situation. Work with your certified financial planner on that. If you don't have a CFP on your team, you can contact me on my team. Find us online, Korhorn.com. That's Korhorn with K. WiseMoneyShow.com. You can find us here as well, or give us a call, 574-247-5898. All right, there you have it. Go out and take your next wise step in your financial life.